Okay, let's plan out this big battle for the campaign coming up.
Yep, February is only a few months away.
All right, we need to think of a few ways to make the battle not suck.
Well, let's talk 5 ways to make mass combat not suck this week on the Dungeon Masters Dojo.
Better not suck.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dungeon Masters Dojo podcast. This is a show for game masters and players alike. We hope to bring you tips and tricks to elevate your game and develop the art of dungeon mastery. I'm your host, Louis Aponte, and these are your Dungeon Masters, Scott Labby and Bill Robitaille. Let's enter the dojo and see what they have in store for us today. So is it going to suck?
I read the
No.
rough draft.
Hell no.
It sucks.
It's not going to suck.
It's got to rework.
Bill already said it sucks.
We got to rework it.
Well, we're going to rework it, so we're going to bring the suckitude down and the awesomosity up. Which is a word.
Awesomosity.
That's a word.
Awesomosity. I like awesomosity. Say it again.
Awesomosity.
Awesomosity.
We're going to put it on a T-shirt.
That's it.
That's what the Dungeon Masters Dojo podcast does for you folks. Not only does it elevate your game, but it brings a sense of awesomosity into your life.
It's a word of the day. Use it 3 times in a sentence.
Awesomosity.
Awesomosity.
Not this guy.
So we're going to talk about mass combat for a couple episodes, and the reason why we're going to do that is, well, I mean, I know Arcana's got their rules for mass combat, but mass combat can suck.
Very much so.
Yeah.
It can
like,
bog things down
the
horribly.
suckitude, it brings the suckitude like hard, and we don't want that in our D&D game.
He's in new word mode.
Suckitude is a word.
Suckitude.
Suckitude goes on the back of the T-shirt. Awesomosity goes on the front, right? Because we're going to leave suckitude in the rearview mirror, and we're putting our awesomosity forward. This could be inspirational.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Make it so.
Yep. I just shot myself in the foot.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to make it to the Wednesday game. Nope. Now I got to design T-shirts.
You'll be able to find that one in the DMD logo wear sometime eventually.
Yep. I guess this week.
This week. Scott promises, everybody.
That's it.
So think of how long combat takes, right, with a party of 5.
An entire evening sometimes.
Yeah. It can.
Or like Dragon Ball Z, 3 or 4 weeks.
3 or 4 solid weeks of people running with veins bulging out of their
And
heads.
you got a mage over there. Kami! It's just an entire episode of that.
We'll see you next week on the DMD, and he's still doing it.
Now make that 2 armies of hundreds, right? And you got yourself
Suckitude.
heavy suckitude.
Heavy suckitude.
Yeah. So your PCs, right? Your PCs are supposed to be the heroes of the journey, the heroes of the story. They can get lost in this big, massive battle if you're not careful. But luckily, Bill, luckily, Lou, luckily, all of our listeners, we have you covered.
We've been through it.
But before we get into it, we should talk about something really important, right?
Something else we got him covered on.
Yes. What do we have them covered on, Lou? You know. You're the man in the suit.
In celebration of 1 year of podcasting, we are holding a giveaway of epic proportions. Everything you need to get started running games. 4 dice trays, 12 complete sets of dice, 4 Crown Royal bags, the D&D Essentials Kit, the D&D Starter Kit, Horde of the Dragon Queen D&D Adventure, the Young Adventurers Collection, Nerdarchy's Out-of-the-Box Encounters, Brass and Steel Steampunk Tabletop RPG, OSR Greats, The Rad Hack, Into the Odd, and White Box Fantastic Medieval Adventure Game. But that's not all. The Curse of Strahd Revamped is included as well. This complete list goes to one lucky winner in the U.S. We realize we may have asked a lot of you initially, so here's the new and improved way to enter the epic giveaway. Simply go to thedungeonmastersdojo.com, our home on the web, and send us a message. You will automatically be entered into the giveaway for a chance to win. After we receive 500 messages, we will draw one lucky winner. We'll see you next time in the dojo.
I know this. That did not suck.
That brought the awesomosity. Tell me it doesn't. Tell me that epic giveaway does
That
not
brought
bring the awesomosity.
the awesomosity.
Yes.
Say it, Lou. Say it.
Right, say it. It feels
the
good.
word.
It feels
Say
good
the
on
word.
your lips.
That brought the...
Awesome-osity.
You gotta let's try it again. We got all one
It's gonna
word.
roll off the
Awesomosity.
tongue.
Awesomosity.
Doesn't
There
it feel
you
good?
go.
I
Oh, that
feel-
just-
Don't you feel awesome?
Yes, I do.
Don't you feel awesomified?
Summified.
The awesomosity awesomified you.
And we're moving
You
on.
heard it first in the dojo, folks.
And with any luck, you'll never hear it anywhere else.
5 ways.
Except on our T-shirt that Scott's going to do this week.
There you go.
Yep. Look for it
Careful what you ask for.
in our Merch and More logo store. Put
5
that
things.
swag in your bag.
5 things.
5 things.
5 things.
Not 6 things, but 5 things. 5 solid things that you're going to need in your tool belt to make mass combat not suck, right? Every DM's got a
Let's-
tool belt, Bill, right?
Everyone, I know I do.
Yep.
I'm all about the tools.
He is.
I have tools to fix my tools.
True story. True story. I
The
watched
only
him
person
perform,
that knows that has that.
watched him perform surgery on a screwdriver.
Hey, you know,
And you know, I'm happy to say that the screwdriver's fine.
it survived.
Yeah, it's doing well. I watched it
Be careful.
drive screws. I had to think about that. I had to think.
Be careful.
Because I was going to say screw other things.
don't test our explicit rating too hard.
Boy, that would have pushed the envelope on that. Huh?
It would have. All
So
right.
what 5 ways?
Number 1. We've actually gone over this a little bit when we did our previous episode, when we did an overview of the UA mass combat rules, is make the battle big or the war, but make it the backdrop, not the campaign. It should be going on around the party, and in certain instances draw them in, but not be the main focus.
Right. Because you get lost, right? There's so much stuff going on
Mm-hmm.
that you need to, and we talked about this a little bit, right? The battle's going on, this big battle with all sorts of, arrows flying through the air, we'll fight in the shade, all that, 300 stuff, and weapons and screams and limbs flying everywhere and blood splatter and somebody running by on fire, but we want to focus on the scenes with the characters, right? Out in the background.
Ideally, yes.
Right, because they're the stars of the show, right? We want to put that spotlight on them.
On them and what they're doing. We just want to make sure we paint a vivid scene
Yes.
of what's going on around them.
Right. The war is full of a bunch of extras,
Yes.
right? And they're running around and they're doing their thing. And here's your player characters doing epic stuff, right? They're going back to back in a circle. The enemy's closing in on them, and they're making their brave last stand.
The special effects are up to the game master.
Perfectly put. Yes, perfectly put. The special effects are up to the game master. If you want to know how to do this, pick your favorite sword fighting movie, right?
Yeah.
Not the B movies,
No,
even
the
though
good
those
ones.
could be good. But, any of the battles in the Lord of the Rings.
Any of the battles. Braveheart.
Braveheart.
There's another one.
Yep.
If you want that fantasy type feel, a bunch of guys running around in skirts and
Yep.
swords and painted faces and out in the woods.
Hawk
hacking
the
up-
Slayer.
Hawk the. I thought you said not B
Yeah.
movies.
What happened? I was going to say Game of Thrones.
It's just
Game of Thrones is another one.
Game of Thrones.
Lou finally is on board with the Game
yes,
of
I
Thrones.
finally started watching
Yeah.
it last week. I'm on season 7.
Good show. Don't get attached to anybody, right? They're
Lou's discovering that. What the hell they killed now?
don't.
That was the thing.
And nobody dies like Boromir. in Game of Thrones.
No, they do not. There's
not
no,
even Boromir.
not even Boromir.
Right.
Dudley Boromir.
He didn't have a big send off like he did at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring. People get shot on the shitter, and it's just it's bad. You know,
There's poisonings and assassinations.
yeah.
And,
The Red Wedding.
That one, I said, "Oh shit!"
yeah,
yeah.
everyone said, "Oh shit!" on the Red Wedding. That was
If you've ever been married,
Yeah.
that's pretty much how it goes.
for some. More than once.
All right.
Third time's the charm, buddy. Third time's the charm.
Yeah.
Number 2.
I was going to say, number 2, are we done with number 1?
Yeah, we're done. Number 2, making the battle the beginning of your campaign to set the tone.
Right. Your entire campaign, the backdrop could be a land embroiled in war.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that your party has to be involved in the war as part of one side or another, but they could get caught up in stuff around the war. I think of
wars are sweeping. They will influence entire regions.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the combat. Because as we've mentioned before, there's all the ancillary things that go around the war to fuel the war. The provisions for the soldiers, the materials needed for the siege weapons, entire forests are laid to waste.
What repercussions do they have on the people that live in that war-torn area?
Yeah, and just the environment in itself.
Yeah,
The waters are sullied. The forests are being cut down. There's smoke in the air everywhere because of hundreds of fires going. And it could be miles away, but it might as well be a forest fire.
One of the movies that I encourage everybody to watch, and it's not a fantasy movie, but I think it does a fine job of having a war as a backdrop while telling a totally different story, right? Somewhat related to the war, but entirely separate from the war being the backdrop. And that's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, good. You pegged that one. I'm sitting here thinking, all right, which one is he trying to pick?
Clint Eastwood movie, so you know it's going to be awesome.
Yep.
There's going to be some badassery at play there, and it's set with the backdrop of the Civil War going on. But the characters, they're kind of weaving in and out of involvement with both the Confederacy and the Union,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not an active part
Of the war.
any side. You
Right.
know, they're doing their own thing, and we've done that. We've done that before with our campaigns.
Yeah.
You know, Lou talked about that a little on the UA episode, where we've used like that as the backdrop for it launched, you know, the campaign, this next kind of phase.
Well, the first time we used it, we actually opened up with the mass combat,
Yes.
which was actually the finale scene. They went the entire week gaming and then returned back to the finale scene to finish it off. So they started with a war and ended with a war, and then we picked up the next year with the same war, opening right from
Yep.
the right war.
Yeah, this is the stuff you have to do to keep your players interested if you've been playing with them for eons, because they want different stuff. You got to
They want bigger and better every single time. You
Yeah.
always got to ramp it up significantly.
they need to be surprised.
Yes,
Because
not easy to do.
you get a bunch of old farts that have been playing D&D forever, and they're like, I'm not impressed. What are you going to do to impress me?
Oh, this again.
Yeah. So you gotta switch things up. One of the other things you could do, right, is make the battle the big finale, and we've done that. We've
Yep.
done that before. You see that in movies all the time. The Battle of Helm's Deep was kind of like the big finale of the Two Towers.
Yep.
Right, the big battle at the end of 13th Warrior, big battle at the end of King Arthur. Players love nothing more than an epic finish.
When we did that, we knew the ending was coming, so you could see the sad faces starting to portray at the table, because we knew this was the final battle, and we were almost done with it.
Yeah.
And we were like in the last hour, and we were so engrossed in it, we were just like, we were saddened too at the same time. So it does bring a lot of emotion to the table.
It does.
That's cool.
And emotion is something that you want at your table. You don't want the kind of emotion where someone's crawling over the table trying to choke you, or when you're standing outside and they're glaring at you and they're calling you bad names, Lou.
That was me. He was calling bad names and glaring at.
But you want that. You want that emotion, right? The big battle says a lot of things, right? When it's at the end of your campaign, it says this is the end of the campaign. If you're going to kill a character, it's gonna happen now. So I'm gonna lose some friends, or maybe I might be the friend that's lost.
But this is where it's going to happen. The great sacrifice, the last sacrifice, happens in the big battle.
And there's a lot of emotions. People are like, "Man, we're finally done with the campaign. This is awesome." And the players love nothing more than mowing through bad guys, right? If you keep throwing them at them so they can mow through them and ride a shield down some steps while they're bow and arrowing the shit out of some Urukai.
The sweeping sword that takes 2 or 3 heads off.
They want that, and that is the time where you allow that cinema. Right now, if someone's doing like a sweeping attack, even though there's no rules for it, that's when you want to I'll allow that.
Yeah. Yes. Let me paint the picture for you. You rolled a natural 20. He only has 2 hit points because he's a little crappy thing, and you did how much damage? Well, your weapon passes through his neck with no resistance whatsoever. And because it weighs so much, that sword just keeps going and takes the head off of the one next to him. And as you put muscle behind it and you find your body turning, you realize as 2 others try to step away, another head goes lopping off. It passes through the throat of that one and another and comes to rest in the forehead of the last individual to die by this one swing. Great job. Who's next on initiative?
And that's the battle is narrated by Morgan Freeman or some British guy. Who's the British guy that does all the nature shows? What the hell's his name?
I can't think of it.
I can't remember shit.
It's on the tip of my tongue and I can't. It'll pop up halfway through this.
Yeah, I'll be driving home. I'll be like, damn.
In the shower.
Or in the shower. I missed my moment.
Attenborough.
David Attenborough. Yep. Yes, that's David Attenborough at the head of the table in the big chair, folks.
That's it.
Yeah, the big finale. That's the time. But again, that should be the backdrop, right? Because as your party battles it through this massive, humongous battle, and they finally come to the big bad, you want the battle to kind of take a back seat and become the backdrop now, as amidst this huge battle, your party,
you're battered, wounded.
Yeah, battered, bloodied, wounded. Now they're
leaving 1 or 2 of their compatriots dead on the battlefield.
Yeah, sort of like when you're watching a movie and your 2 bosses or you and the boss come up to a fight and you just hear the light cling clang in the background.
Yep. That's it.
You want to dial
because the rest of the army
down.
is pushed away, and all the big bad's got his circle of protection.
Yep.
You've busted through that circle, but the rest of the circle's there. They're engaged. Everyone else, and the big bad, they're mine. And they all back off, and the battle's going off in the background, and now it's finally we meet.
Yeah, Elrond and Isildur fighting Sauron. And he cuts his fingers off, and Isildur not paying attention to anything that Elrond's saying. He's like, "Oh, I got the fucking ring now." Yep. You see how that ended up?
Yeah.
So
several more episodes.
Yeah. Leave the jewelry on the dead guy. All right, and
if you do that, everything will be so much easier.
It'll be fine.
Take his coins. That's fine. Right. Make it the big battle. Number 4. Let's narrate through anything that isn't necessary for the player's involvement.
Why? I've been in some big battles that were I paid for the whole seat, but I'm just using the edge. And then I've been at battles where I'm watching the DM at the other end just rolling dice, and then 10 more fall, and then he's narrating it like
it's algebra.
This is how you get numbers out of letters, and it's boring. You're looking around the table and people are making dice towers, not the kind that you roll your dice through.
Yeah, they're stacking their dice
but
to
they're
see if
stacking
they can get.
they're stacking their
I got
dice.
3
like they're
polyhedron
Legos.
completely stacked up. The D4s were tricky.
Yep, I'm good for that.
Yep, they're on their Well, back then we didn't have cell phones, but they're doodling. One guy's doodling. He's drawing Conan the Barbarian. Someone else is, drawing genitalia on the front of the GM screen because they're pissed off at them. Narrate through anything unnecessary for player. Keep your players engaged.
You don't have to roll to see how much damage the siege weapon did to the wall of the castle.
You don't. Or how much damage, the siege weapon did to the people it hit. No, they're dead.
Yeah.
They're out of combat.
Taking the focus away from the players will bore the players.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can narrate through all that stuff, right? The flames, raining down around you. An entire unit of soldiers is taken out by a ballista. You hear a wall collapse.
Well, it's a great way for the game master to set the tone, build the tension, and add to the drama.
And that's what you want to do.
You make it as epic, and they're like, "Oh shit, things are going bad," because you're describing your narrative. They're not. You don't have to roll dice through it. Verbally paint the picture of what's going on and narrate. And I don't care if it goes on for like 5 minutes straight. They're going to be enraptured as you describe what's going on. And this is happening here, and that's happening there, and this and next to you, this is going on. Things are not looking good for you right now. There's a little glimmer of hope. The mage just got squashed. But make it sound as epic as it's supposed to be, and narrate through it.
Right, and it's more than just you're standing there exchanging blows with someone, right? So you're the battle. You're moving around the battlefield, and you're exchanging blows with a sword. There's someone gets hit in the throat with an arrow next to you and drops in front of you in between the two of you, so you have to maneuver around the body, or another combatant comes in, and now you have two combatants, and you dispatch one, and then you dispatch the other, but then here's a wizard doing wizard stuff, and it's got to be fast moving. Right.
Yes,
it's
because that keeps the adrenaline right. It keeps them ramped up.
Yeah, you want it to move fast. It's not the fencing match.
You're not reading the phone book,
right? And you're not. It's not that fencing match between the Dread Pirate Roberts and Inigo Montoya, where it's just two guys, doing sword fighting up the stairs. It's there's all this other stuff going on around them, and it's one person may be down, but the battle's not over because there's still like hundreds of other people on the battlefield. Describe the smells, the sounds. It's smoky out there. There's blood everywhere.
Describe what's called an organoleptic evaluation. Using all your senses and all your organs to what do you feel? What do you hear? What do you taste? Yes.
Organoleptic?
Organoleptic evaluation.
Oh, we're going to have to design another T-shirt, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah.
And see who buys it.
Go organoleptic. That's a bumper sticker. Put that on your Subaru Forester.
There you go. I'm
right
organoleptic.
Next to Eat More Kill.
You describe all the senses. Not just what you see. What you hear, what you taste, things are splattered all over the place. They said there's fires going. The sting in your eye as you're passing through because the siege weapon has gone up in flame and casting this black oily smoke across the field, and now you're having trouble seeing through it, and it's burning your eyes. And you try to describe all the senses.
Yes,
and because they're going to picture it in their mind. Now, granted, what's in their mind is not going to be the same thing you're picturing. But the more detail you give will be the closer to what you're envisioning. And that way everyone's on the same page.
And
or at least close.
I'll tell you, nothing looks better on the table than mass combat in miniatures and terrain.
Yeah.
That's just...
Especially if you set it up ahead of time.
Yeah.
We've done that. We've kicked everybody out, set up the table, and then let them back in. And it's like, wow. That wow factor's nice.
Mass combat's one of those things that if you're going to do it, you really have to commit to it.
Yep.
Because it could be an absolute train wreck if you don't, right? It's not for the faint of heart. It's something that you really have to get your notes in order, and you have to just jump in and commit to it.
Script your stuff ahead of time. A lot of your stuff. You do your descriptions, even if you got it, write them all down so you have to read them off. That way you can make that narration sound so good. It doesn't have to be smooth where it's all off the top of your head. You can have pages of it written out ahead of time. But at certain points, right, this is what happens here. This is what happens here. This is what happens here. So you can direct the flow of the combat, direct the flow of the story as you go, and let them react to the narration. And I think that would make things so much quicker and easier.
Agreed.
Lou, do you have a point? You have this kind of quizzical look, like you're on the moment of an epiphany.
No, I was just reimagining all the big battles we went through. Because you guys just hit all the points that when we ran through the battle, whether it been the last one from our first 7 years or the prequel to the other one, that's everything that we've been through.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it and are reminiscing over there.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
To do a large battle. It's something that is extremely gratifying if it goes well and you have a table full of players having a great time, but you can really you can screw the pooch on it.
It is a lot of work. There's a lot of forethought that goes into it. Even if you don't put out terrain or anything like that, even if it's just a hex or a square mat, and you put out a couple Jenga blocks to represent this, that, and the other thing,
which we've done.
We have done. They actually make really good, quick dungeon walls. But it's all in the narration. It's all in how you describe it, because that's what they're really going to have stuck in their head. And you're right. Dedicate yourself to it. Have this stuff prepared ahead of time, and don't try to do a large war or a large campaign around big battles off the top of your head. It's not going to work as well. It's not going to sound well, and it's not going to be as smooth.
And if you're going to dedicate your campaign to a war, that's going to be the campaign. Stay away from big battles.
Mm-hmm.
It may sound counterintuitive, right, if you're going to have your campaign be about war, but stay away from big battles. Do the small stuff with your players.
Well, it's the players that are supposed to be involved, not the armies.
Yes.
And as we said right in the very beginning, the war is the backdrop.
Yeah, and so what do they do then, right? What small stuff do you get your players involved in with like war?
Well, this is where the intrigue comes in.
Yep.
You could be, intercepting messengers. You could be trying to disrupt the supply lines.
Espionage.
Let's see if we can destroy. Oh, they're trying to build, siege armor or siege weapons. What happens if it accidentally bursts into flame in the middle of the night for no reason at all? Things like this is where your players could be involved in a war without going to
being
war.
Involved. Yeah, they can also be trying to turn some of their other people.
Yep.
Using, if you're using the morale system that we just went over.
Yep. It's like all this stuff is going around. Guerrilla warfare is a phenomenal thing when you have a small group that's trying to combat an army. It falls to guerrilla warfare, and that's where you're still part of the war, but it's a small battle and a small battle and a small battle.
It's always focused on the group.
But it's always focused on the group, and that small group could possibly influence the war just by the few things that they're doing.
Yeah, interrupting supply lines.
That's big.
Right? You want some really good stuff. And I grew up on war movies. A Bridge Too Far.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Bridge Over Kwai.
Oh, I love that one. I was about to say that one too. I love that movie.
Kelly's Heroes.
Yep.
Force 10 from Navarone. Guns of Navarone. That's all stuff that, okay, these are war movies, but we're dealing with a small group doing something essential to the war, right? We're not dealing with like massive armies clashing on the battlefield, but these are still very important things that could turn the tide of war.
The Expendables.
Yes.
The Expendables.
Yeah, which is like they're literally expendable. Yeah, we don't need them. They're all crooks.
Well, I mean,
we don't care if they die.
Even the character players, technically, when they're in a war and they're doing little things like that, to somebody higher up, they are expendable.
This is true.
So it's the same principle.
Yeah. What if you don't agree with the edict of your commanders and you think you know better?
Yeah.
What if they discover they don't? There's a lot of different ways you can go with plots, but yeah, I did small stuff with the characters and what to do during a big war. There is countless things to do.
And what happens if your players decide to defect to the other side? Now that's something else to contend with.
Yeah, maybe they say, "Oh, yeah, they've been indoctrinated into this is what we're going to do. This is they're the other side. They're horrible. They're this. They mistreat." Then you find out it's all wrong. You're a victim of propaganda.
Yeah,
and it's I'm going to kill these people or do this, and it's wrong.
Right.
What I'm doing is
not
wrong.
a matter of right and wrong, right?
Yeah.
You find out that both sides, it's like, wait, this isn't this isn't over what is right or wrong. This may be over resources.
Yeah. They're not fighting because they want to move the boundary of the between the two lands. They're fighting over the rights of that mountain and all the minerals in it. That's why they're trying to move it. They're not moving because, I need more farmland for my farmers and for my smiths and stuff. I want that mountain that's full of gems.
Escape from a POW camp.
Yep.
That's another good one.
There's a bunch of stuff you can do on a smaller scale with your party that is still involved in this war in this greater campaign. You just have
without being on the front lines,
right? And you have to piece it together so that it flows, right? If you're escaping from a POW camp, maybe they need to be captured first in the campaign. If it's happening in the middle, maybe that's where you start the campaign.
Yeah.
The best research is, I think, watching old war movies.
Yeah, you watch old war movies and spaghetti westerns. And
yeah,
between the two, you're going to have all your little combats and your intrigue, and then with the grand scope of the war going on around you.
And if you're not into watching those long, drawn-out movies, even short one, comical ones like Hogan's Heroes.
Hogan's Heroes, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Or the Rat Patrol.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jesus, that was a long time
It
ago.
was a long time ago.
We're old.
We're old. Those shows are older than probably like 75% of our listeners. Ask your ask your grandparents. Your grandparents. Grandpa will know. Mom and Dad may not, but Grandma and Grandpa might.
McHale's Navy.
Oh, that's another one.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember watching that when it first came out. It was black and white.
Black and white, yep.
Yep. If you want to blend of ships in sea with a war backdrop and do like naval stuff, then yeah, that's good. Yeah. You may not even want to dedicate your whole campaign to that, but that might be something kind of cool to switch up to for a little while to kind of throw a curveball to your players and be like, oh, this is new. We'll do this for a bit. Don't wear armor
and make sure Bill's not game mastering.
Right, because that shit
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you know how to swim or not. You're still sinking.
You're sinking.
And that's 5 ways to make mass combat not suck. We'll see you next time in the dojo. That's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Please subscribe to the podcast for more great content. If you'd like to hear a particular topic, you can reach us on Facebook at the Dungeon Masters Dojo, or you can drop us an email at thedungeonmastersdojo@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.